This is the first in a series of mono podcasts that will be coming your way every Thursday from me. Today I discuss a fundamental topic in our daily lives: discipline. On many occasions, many of us have lived under a set of rules or regulations. These rules are intended to govern, direct, and control our daily conduct. For the sake of good order in our family, at school, or in college, and sometimes even in our workplaces. These regulated rules have what I would call external sanctions and enforcement agents. External sanctions come in form of punishment, which may be either physical or otherwise if we are in breach of the rules. The enforcement agents are ordinarily at family level our parents. If it is at school, our teachers. If it is at college, our tutors. If it is at the workplace, our employers. They enforce these rules to ensure that all of us obey the environment in which we operate. And ultimately, we have to. Because if we don't, then we give rise to disorder. And this is the environment in which most of us have grown up in. It is necessary, it is good for society, it is good for families, it is good for colleges, it is good for schools. But at a certain point, we graduate from this environment. We leave our parents. We graduate from primary school. We graduate from colleges, and sometimes we even leave employment. We go and become independent people. At that level, we get into another layer of rules and regulations. I call this second layer self-discipline. This is a layer of rules that we give unto ourselves. They have no external sanctions. They have no enforcement agents, as is the case in the first layer. We give ourselves the values, we give ourselves the beliefs, and we give ourselves the convictions. We become masters of our own life. We direct our conduct on a daily basis. Self-discipline is important because it determines your success or failure in life. When you are young, you are told by your parents, do not smoke. When you graduate from there and you get into the realm of self-discipline, you tell yourself, I will not smoke because it is bad for me. When you are at school, you are told, don't take alcohol because you'll be expelled from school. When you graduate from there, you tell yourself, I will not take alcohol because it is not good for me. So you become your own king. You become your own master. So self-discipline is an important determinant as to how we move ahead in life after we have left everybody else behind. Because in the first layer, you are given sanctions under fear One of the reasons why we obey rules with our parents is because we are afraid of being smacked, shouted at. One of the reasons why we obey the rules at primary school is because we have a fear of being suspended from school or expelled. One of the reasons why we obey rules in workplaces is because we are afraid of being dismissed. So if you want to put this in a mathematical formula, it will read something like rules plus fear plus punishment equals discipline. This formula does not exist when you get to a point where you are now exercising self-discipline. And therefore, for the youth out there, I want to say this to you, that when you cultivate these rules and convictions in yourself, you also need to look up to some mentor or an icon, someone you can measure your character against, somebody that you get to admire, somebody that you look up to because you think you want to be like them and you want to achieve what they have achieved and even more than what they have achieved. And that is important because you need a yardstick to continue checklisting whether or not the moral code you have given to yourself is actually working. If it has worked in A, it must work in B. Now, I'll tell you a personal story. And the story goes like this. In the mid-70s, when I was at secondary school, I read a story in a magazine, and this story was about the Kenyan literary icon by the name of Ngugi wa Thiong'o. Ngugi inspired me in a manner that I didn't think he would after reading that story. The story was to the effect that while Ngugi wa Thiong'o was a lecturer at the University of Nairobi in Kenya, he continued to live amongst his people in the village. So he drove or shuttled between his village and Nairobi University. This story struck me in a very fundamental way. And I said to myself, here is somebody who is well educated. He was a graduate of Makerere University. He was a lecturer at Nairobi University. But he continued to live amongst his people. He even went ahead to establish a drama club there that was acting in the Gikuyu language. I picked up a principle from Ngugi wa Thiong'o. And I said to myself, it is possible then, despite my Western education, that the education that I attain should not be a barrier or a wall between the underprivileged, my traditional roots, and myself. And I have stuck to that ideal up to this point. At the time when I did that, I never dreamed that I would ever meet Ngugi wa Thiong'o. But I did hang on to his principle because it was extremely inspiring to me. I came to meet Ngugi wa Thiong'o more than 30 years later when my dream came true. In 2013, when I was the Secretary General of the Patriotic Front and the Minister of Justice, I set up an auxiliary organ of the party called the Policy Monitoring and the Research Center. And one of the things that I decided to do under that platform was to start inviting certain iconic African figures or intellectuals to come and deliver public lectures. I took an opportunity to invite Ngugi wa Thiong'o, who graciously traveled all the way from the United States through Dar es Salaam, where I was attending a conference under the auspices of the Julius Nyerere Institute of African Studies. I was elated. I was so ecstatic that I was in the midst or in the presence of an icon that I never at any time dreamed that I would meet. And Ngugi delivered a lecture under the theme, The Justice of Language, at one of the Mopani rooms at the Pamoza Hotel. So it is possible from this experience that you can have an icon in mind whom you probably never meet, and maybe by some chance in history in your life you get to meet them. So this is an important lesson to you, the youth. Let me give you a few examples of what self-discipline can do for you. One of the things that self-discipline does for you is that it makes you attractive to good people. So you have people that can hold your hand as you journey through life. The other thing that self-discipline does is that it attracts good people to you, decent people. Nobody is attracted towards somebody who is indisciplined. The third thing that self-discipline does to you is that it opens up unexpected opportunities in your life. If you are self-disciplined, you can be assured that you will be able to open any door in life. The other thing that you find self-discipline doing for you is that you are going to get a lot of people around you that will encourage you to live by the moral code that you have. Remember the adage, show me your friends, I'll tell you who you are. So self-discipline allows you to keep a circle of friends that will encourage you to go further than where you are, to go beyond what your naked eyes can see on the horizon. So it is an important aspect of your life. But this message is not only for the youth. It is for all of you out there, that we should all strive to cultivate self-discipline in our life, because it is for our own good. If you read through history, those that have achieved success have come from a background of a personal moral code that they themselves developed, they gave to themselves. There was no fear of any sanctions. There was no external enforcement agent. But they said to themselves, this is what I'm going to be, and this is what I should be. One of the problems that every society has today, as we modernize, as we leave our traditional customs and roots, is the problem of mentors and icons for the youth. Our youth are looking for mentors. They are looking for icons, not angels and saints, but men and women against whom they can measure their success in life and whether or not they are treading on safe ground, and whether or not what they are doing is acceptable. And that has become a problem for society. So I come to you to give you this encouragement that now you have a platform where you can listen to topics like this one. Let me here end with one of my quotes. And it goes, because self-discipline has no regulated sanctions, it is the highest measure of your character. Because self-discipline has no regulated sanctions, it is the highest measure of your character. Let me have your comments, but let me appeal to you as you make your comments. Please speak to the topic. Kindly speak to the topic so that I can learn from your comments if you have learned something from this mono podcast that has come to you today. Thank you.